Welcome to Right Fit Leader, a podcast from Alec Broadfoot and the Hire with Confidence team at VisionSpark. This is where visionaries, entrepreneurs, and leaders learn how to hire leaders, lead better, and build teams that last. Through expert insights, real client stories, and conversations with top leaders, you will hear how we find A players for your business. This is Right Fit Leader.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Right Fit Leader podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to build a self-running company with the Big Nine. Today, I have back as a guest, Alec Broadfoot. He leads VisionSpark. We are a premium executive search firm in Columbus, Ohio, and we have been helping fast-growing companies across the nation for over 15 years make critical people decisions by hiring right fit leaders. VisionSpark has successfully completed hundreds of leadership searches in entrepreneurial companies with over a 98% placement and 93% retention success rates, the highest in the industry. VisionSpark has been recognized on the Inc. 5000 list for the last 3 years as one of the fastest growing companies across the country. Alec is a member of Strategic Coach and a sought-after speaker. In his free time, Alec enjoys playing tennis and pickleball and collaborating with and coaching entrepreneurs and spending time with his family. Welcome back, Alec.
Thanks, Jen.
Excited to have you here again. I know we just sat down together on this Right Fit Leader podcast not that long ago, but we have a new topic that we need to unpack together: how to build a company to run without you, and the big 9 leader roles that help a visionary to do that. So first, I want to ask you, why do so many successful visionaries unintentionally become the biggest constraint to their company's growth?
Yeah, I think it's they actually become the bottleneck themselves. So there's so often they have this mindset, I can do it myself. I know, I've been there. And so it's not a question of asking who can get this done. It's more of how can I get this done? And so it's a lot of pressure, a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights on how to actually grow. So entrepreneurs will hit a ceiling of complexity, as they say in Coach. They'll hit a ceiling, and the only way they know to get through that ceiling is by working harder instead of looking at how to actually free themselves up by having great leaders.
Yeah, that's great. I wonder too if, because when visionaries or entrepreneurs start their companies and they're small, they are doing all of those jobs, right? The ones that they don't have a who yet for. And then as they grow and scale, they get the right who's in place, the right people in the right seats. But then when a seat or something changes or a seat becomes vacant, if it almost becomes like an instinct to go back to the beginning and kind of build from the beginning the way a company might have done when they were younger. So we have another question. I know we ask visionaries about how many positions away are you from having a company that can truly run without you? What does that question reveal about the health and the scalability of a business?
It's a phenomenal question. I think that's a question that visionaries, business owners should ask themselves every day, because oftentimes that'll change, right? So depending on your leadership structure. So usually it's about 2 positions. When I've talked to other entrepreneurs, oftentimes they need a really good executive assistant and a really good number 2 leader. Those individuals that have solved those 2 positions, and then it's usually another leadership level position where they've been, they have someone in place that isn't maybe very strong in that role, and they know that position is preventing them from scaling.
Yeah. What does built to run without you actually mean?
Yeah. So that would be a visionary is truly being in the owner's box. And if you think of it, they can actually, take a year off, take a sabbatical. The business operates without them. So, McDonald's was the one that really, really just made the franchise model so successful. And so if you look at a McDonald's business, you don't see the owner in the business flipping hamburgers and helping in the drive-through. That owner is not seen. And so that whole restaurant runs without the owner. So if you have a business, whether it's a manufacturing or service base or an AI company, how can that business run without you? What leadership positions do you need in place so it can run without you? So, and then the second question is, how can it multiply without you? How can it actually grow without you? So those are two different questions. And so that those questions, answering that would determine, do you want a business that can grow without you or just run without you?
Great. That's great for visionaries to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we mentioned earlier about the big 9 leadership roles. What are the big 9 leadership roles that lead to successful companies that can run without the visionary or the business owner?
Yeah. So maybe you as a business owner, you need a CEO. You need someone that can go in and just run the company, set the strategy in place, actually have some of that visionary tendency. Maybe you want to be fully out. That's not a very common role, but we do see that, especially with companies that have been on the Inc. 5000 that have received some funding and they have that equity. The most popular one is to have a number 2, a COO, second in command, integrator. They're called multiple positions, but essentially someone that can run the business, run the day-to-day business, and they would oversee all the other leadership positions. An executive assistant is key. So having that person, whether it's a remote position or an in-person, part-time or full-time, most entrepreneurial companies that really see success have a full-time in-person assistant. And then the leadership team. So someone that is over your sales function, someone over your marketing function, over finance, such as a CFO, someone over your people, your HR leader. And then the others would be maybe the next layer down. And so that would be maybe a general manager, director of operations, and then a marketing leader. So those are the big 9 seats that we talk about here and how we help companies find leaders so it can run without them.
So why are the big 9 leadership roles so foundational to building a self-managing company? What happens if even one of those seats is missing or maybe occupied by the wrong person?
Yeah, well, in both cases, that there's chaos, right? It's you're only as good as your weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we've talked about that before, but the whole concept of leadership lid. And so if you have on a scale of 1 to 10, your leader is a 3, the entire business feels the impact of that level 3 leader. And can that person truly get you to the next level? Can they truly scale? And, maybe you've tried training them, mentoring them, but you're still frustrated about it. So if you have someone in the wrong seat in each of these 9 positions, it is going to impact your company and you're not going to have a business that will run without you.
Yeah, very good. So are there any roadblocks or setbacks that you can think of that can happen in a company that can derail a visionary when they're on that path to building a company that can run without them?
Yeah, I think the number one that comes to mind is money. Well, if I had enough cash, I could find the right leaders. So then the question is, have you been hiring the right leaders to begin with? Because if you're thinking of it as an expense, then you're not going to have, you may not have enough cash. But if you're thinking of it as an investment, an A player will pay for themselves. Mm-hmm. You'll get a return back. So money's number 1. 2 is you may have someone in that role and you really like them as a person and you don't want to fire them. You don't want to let them go. And so that is usually tough. And so my encouragement is to shift your sensitivity on what is best for the business for the long term. And that has helped me over the years to make the right hiring decisions, the right leadership decisions. So those would be the 2, both money and, really being loyal to the people on your team.
Yeah, that's something we talk to visionaries a lot in our discovery process with them when they initially reach out to us. We're always happy to consult on those roadblocks too, and just give some different ideas and variables that might help them kind of think outside of the box and getting that right leader in the right seat for those roles. So if a visionary wants to build a business that scales beyond their own capacity, what mindset shifts need to happen before they start making organizational changes?
It's really thinking who, not how, as Dan Sullivan says. So if you're constantly thinking, how am I going to get this done? That's going to be self-limiting. But who has the leadership abilities to run this department or to run the business that I don't have? Some entrepreneurs, some leaders, if you're looking at a certain limit of weights. Some have the capability of lifting 50 pounds over their head. Some have the ability to lift 500 pounds over their head. Some have a much greater capacity, but eventually that capacity will be there. And so you have to think, who's going to get me to this next level? So thinking who, not how is absolutely paramount in that.
Yeah, so true. So if a visionary is excited about listening to this podcast today and they know who they need to hire to get their company to run without them, what can help them to know what the best timing would be as far as when they should bring on these right fit leaders? Obviously, if they have maybe 3 or 4 of those big 9 not in place, and they're thinking, okay, I know I need these people, but the timing, just how am I going to afford to pay for all of these leaders all at once? Or how can they figure out what the best timing is for that?
Yeah, so I recommend always starting with the more senior position first. And so if you want to start there, because you want that once they're in place, that they can now have buy-in into who reports underneath them. So knowing that, with timing, you are sacrificing something, whether you could be sacrificing client experiences, sales growth, profit, lost sleep, stress. And so, you probably want to start the process, at least 90 days before you can actually want them in place, maybe even sooner, but knowing that in the meantime, you are sacrificing something. And so I would say, start the process, because if something changes, if for some reason your business takes a turn or something doesn't work out, that's going to be less expensive than waiting to hire someone until you're desperate.
Yeah, such good feedback. One thing we have too that might help our listeners out there, our people plan workshops can help you figure out what triggers you might need to hit in knowing when the timing is right to bring on the leaders that you need, whether it's these big 9 or even other additional people on the team. So if any of our listeners are interested in learning more about our people plan, you can go to our website, visionsparksearch.com, or reach out to us to get more information on that. But wanted to thank you, Alec, so much for being here today and for all of your insights into building a company that can run without you. I have one share for our listeners. If you're struggling to find a right fit leader for your company, then you need to connect with VisionSpark. And if you would like a copy of Alec's best-selling book, Hire Your Right Number 2 Leader, you can find that on Amazon.com. So please tell our listeners, Alec, how do people work with, connect, and find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. You mentioned our website, and our great sales team, they can reach out as well. And that people plan workshops as a phenomenal tool in helping our visionaries see clearly. And the ones that have went through it have come out with such excitement because they have a clear path. So that was really good for you to mention that. So the people plan workshop is definitely something to highlight.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much again for being here. Thank you to our listeners. If you need guidance on finding right fit leaders for your team, feel free to reach out to us again at visionsparksearch.com to request more information. Remember, you are only one hiring strategy session away from taking the first step in finding your next right fit leader.
Thanks for listening to Right Fit Leader, brought to you by VisionSpark. Have questions or ready to hire your right fit leader? Email us at discover@vision-spark.com. Until next time, remember VisionSpark is your go-to partner for finding leaders and building teams.